It's D-Day for Ntuthuko Shoba as the High Court in Johannesburg will this morning hand down judgment in the murder case against him. Shoba is accused of masterminding the gruesome killing of his 8 months pregnant girlfriend, Ntuthuko back in 2020. Linda Mnisi, our reporter, has been tracking the story. And in fact, Linda, it feels like we've been walking alongside the Pule family since that horrific day in 2020. I mean, tell us about that journey for the family.
It's been an emotionally taxing one, according to them, looking at where they've come from. But also, while they feel like it's been a long journey for them, they're quite grateful, given, of course, the fact that it could have just been one of those cases that have gone cold. But the public has really also been quite, important in this case, calling for justice in the murder of Ntuthuko. And that's why, perhaps we saw, arrest early, just a few days after her body was discovered. A year later, when Muzagaisa Malepane pleaded guilty, the following Monday, in fact, they had to go to court to start with a new process of, now Ntuthuko Shoba being charged of, masterminding the murder. So it's really been a long journey for them. But today is the day when they actually bring the matter to finality.
Yeah, and the family are obviously asking for nothing but a guilty verdict. For Ntuthuko Shoba, the past few months have been eventful. A lot's been happening in court in him trying to argue the fact that he was not involved in the gruesome murder of Ntuthuko. The state is saying he's been unsuccessful.
Yes, and what's quite interesting about the charge itself, Michelle, is that he has nothing to prove. He doesn't have to prove anything. The onus is on the state to prove beyond reasonable doubts that he, in fact, is the one that committed this crime. And we've seen him, wage a war from the onset, bringing a number of bail applications that obviously were not successful. We've seen him change lawyers a couple of times. In fact, the lawyers that are representing him now are his third legal team in this entire process. And he's basically, throughout the trial, maintained his innocence, saying that, in fact, he was quite excited to be welcoming a new baby, and that he, in fact, made his stance clear around the abortion and the termination of the pregnancy, because Muzagaisa Malepane, the killer, said he was procured because Ntuthuko Shoba felt that Ntuthuko did not want to terminate this baby, and it would ultimately jeopardize his relationship with his long-term partner. But he says that was not true, because we had a conversation and we decided we were not going to go the abortion route like we previously did before.
For our viewers who are tuning in this morning and may not have known about the details of this gruesome case, Linda, remind us.
Well, you'll remember that Ntuthuko in 2020, at the height of the lockdown here in this country, Ntuthuko went missing. And, she went missing on the 4th, in fact, of June. And that is the night where she was killed. She was later found, a couple of days later, hanging from a tree in Durban Deep. Now, how the killer explains it in this particular incident is that he picked her up from Ntuthuko Shoba's house and then drove with her. She was supposed to take her home, but he drove with her to a dark place in North Gesig, where he took her out of the car, grabbed her by the hand, shot her, she fell down, put her in the car, and then drove back to Durban Deep, where he hung her lifeless body literally 800 meters away from where he lived.
Sure.
So a couple of days then, he's found, making his way back from Mpumalanga. He says that during that time he was, he went to Mpumalanga to throw away the gun that he used to kill Ntuthuko. So initially, he made a statement telling the police that, in fact, Ntuthuko Shoba was inside the car. Ntuthuko was stabbed, but the postmortem then revealed a completely different story, that, in fact, she died from a gunshot wound.
Sure.
So obviously, then later blew the lid that, in fact, he was, procured by Muziga, or rather Ntuthuko Shoba, to kill Ntuthuko.
And of course, Muzagaisa Malepane, that's the murderer. In this case, he is serving a jail term. Today, in the High Court in Johannesburg, Ntuthuko Shoba, that's the boyfriend of the then pregnant Ntuthuko. He's set to hear the outcome of that murder case against him. Linda, thanks very much for coming into studio.